So in this little video, I want to give you just a little bit of a quick start on exploring databases and tables inside of MySQL. In a previous video, I showed you how to install MySQL on Linux Mint, and I mentioned the fact that you need to start the server before you can launch the client. Now, I've already started the server, but just for a reminder to you, I will type in the command sequence, which is in the init subdirectory, and it would be mysql start. And so since it's already started, I'm not going to start it again, but that's what you'll need to do unless you've put this into some kind of a startup file that starts the server when your Linux boots. But what we will do is start the client. So we do that with sudo mysql, and we're at the command line of the SQL client. When you're in the MySQL, it's very important to get yourself oriented as to what do I have here. So one of the first commands that you should be familiar with is show databases. Don't forget that semicolon at the end, and this will print out a little table for you which indicates the current installed databases in your environment. Right now, we just have databases that basically came along with the system. But let's take a look at one of those. So we need to make a database active. And to do that, it's the use command. So use, and let's choose MySQL, semicolon. And now we are told that the database has been changed, and the current database is MySQL. So now that we're in a database, it would be useful and important to know what tables exist there. So there's the show tables command. And executing that, we can see all of the tables that are part of the MySQL database. You can see that they look system-oriented, and indeed that's because they are. Let's just select everything from, let's say, the host table. And we can see that that table indeed is an empty table. So not much to see. We can select star, that's the wild card, from time zone. And that's empty as well. So not a lot of interesting things in this database. When I selected everything from the user table, we have a lot of information here, and in fact, there's so many fields that they roll off the page, but we can see some information about the host user and password, and you can basically see that it's system-oriented information. We have the local host, we've got my virtual machine. We can see here a loopback address. So all these things are part of that user table. So in order to do things for the assignments that we need to do, I suggest you create a special purpose database just for the assignments. So let's create database. Let's create one that's the course name, NOS 220. So we got the happy feedback, query okay, one row affected. We've created a database. But we're not currently in that database. We are still in fact, we could, if we say show tables, we can see that we're still in the MySQL database. So if we want to use this new database that we just created, we have to actually use the keyword use, and then the database is changed to our new working database. Now that we have a database, that database should have no tables in it. So let's show tables, and we see that there is an empty set. So the first thing we'd want to do is create some tables, and that is part of some of your assignments. You'll learn the create table command, okay? And then you have a table name. So let's just make one called test. So I'll have a table called test, and then a parenthesis, and then the field name. I'll just use field 1. Then the actual type, data type. There are a variety of different data types. You'll read about them. Variable character is one that is common, so we can use that, or we can just have character, say, 6 for perhaps a user ID, but we're just going to name our fields field 1, field 2. Maybe this one is going to be variable character. And we'll say quantity is an integer. And then we have a parenthesis and a semicolon. And so 0 rows effective, but the query was okay. So let's do that show tables again. And you see I'm using the arrow key on my keyboard, and there is some history. So let's go back to show tables. Now the database has one table in it, and it is the table name test that we just created. There's no data in that table. If I want to put data into that table, then that's the insert into command. So the name of the table is test, right? And I have to insert into that table values. I don't have to have that capitalized, but it's just for visual purposes. So insert into test, the name of the table, values. Then the values need to sync up with the actual fields that I have created for that table. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That will be the field 1, that's 6 characters. Field 2, maybe my name. And field 3, which is an integer, will have maybe years of employment. And the semicolon to end. And now the query was okay, one row affected. We can presumably guess that that data has been successfully inserted into the test table, and we can select everything, spell it right, select everything from test, and we will see the data. So hopefully this is some commands. You'll remember there's the show databases command, the use, and then database name to make a given database the current one, show tables to give you a view of everything that is in the current database, and then you can create new tables and insert data into tables, and then use a variety of select commands, which you can read about in some data sheets online, to query your database. So, hope this gets you going. Have fun.